Morning. We're here to talk about this amazing opportunity that we have to offer the RJ field and the criminal legal field. Um, so first, I just want to say my name is Quayla Hugh. I work for the Center for Justice Innovation on the Restorative Practices team. The Center for Justice Innovation is a community justice organization that builds safety and racial justice in partnership with communities, legal systems, and the people most impacted. So because we work closely with systems and communities, we feel uniquely positioned to bridge the gap between them by fostering communication, understanding, and trust. And our restorative practices team has worked in a wide variety of settings, including schools, courts, and community, to support organizations interested in learning more about restorative justice. And we work alongside stakeholders to plan and implement restorative justice programming. And Alana will share a little bit about her org.
Thank you. Good morning and good afternoon to folks tuning in. My name is Alana Ojibwe. I am the Assistant Director of Education and Outreach with our National Center on Restorative Justice team. So the National Center on Restorative Justice is funded by the Bureau of Justice Assistance to improve criminal justice policy and practice in the U.S. through educating and training the next generation of justice leaders, supporting and leading research focused on restorative justice and addressing social inequities. And our newest area of work, which we're excited to share more about today, supporting the implementation of new restorative justice programs. We are a partnership between the University of Vermont, Vermont Law and Graduate School, University of San Diego, our partners at Bureau of Justice Assistance, and our growing partners like Center for Justice Innovation and other community partners. So we're really excited to have sort of this new area of our work in program implementation, starting really with this work that we're going to be sharing today. So before we dive into that, I just wanted to mention briefly and can drop a link in our chat for those who might be interested in other ways to connect with our work at the National Center and some other opportunities that might be of interest. Free of charge, all of our education and resources is publicly accessible on our website, and a few initiatives in particular that I just wanted to make a quick highlight for today for folks who might be interested. One of them is that we offer a series of other free webinars throughout the year and have a number of them that you can see on our website. Some of them this year will be focusing on restorative justice as it relates to kind of particular areas within the criminal justice system or geared towards particular system actors as just an educational opportunity for folks who are interested in learning more. We have other ones that are geared towards learning about restorative justice work happening sort of regionally in the South and the East Coast. So feel free to check out any of these other webinar opportunities or send to community partners that might be interested. Another opportunity is we have a coaching program for practitioners or new practitioners working in restorative justice who could benefit from support and mentoring with folks who have been working in the field for a long time and in a number of different settings. And so there's a link to apply. It's a running program throughout the year. And it really allows for an opportunity for folks to connect not only with this mentor that you get to work on one-on-one for support, but also to connect with this cohort of other practitioners for sort of shared learning environments. And then the last piece I just wanted to mention is that also through the National Center, we have updated postings for when we have scholarship opportunities available through the certificate programs that both Vermont Law and Graduate School as well as University of San Diego offer for professionals who are interested in integrating restorative justice or furthering their existing education on restorative justice. So that's a certificate program, and scholarships are available through the National Center. I'm just going to drop our link to the website in the chat. And all right, now we'll shift our focus and talk about this opportunity that you are here to learn about today. So a quick overview of this is that this opportunity is really geared towards folks who are interested in applying to receive this 3-day training, which we'll be talking about most specifically today. Part of the follow-up from this training is that those 5 sites who are selected that will be working with our CJI team over the next few months this year will be invited to participate in a virtual learning community with peer agencies. I'll talk more about that. And as part of that, receiving guidance in identifying and forming a partnership with a community-based organization and practitioners. That's really sort of the lead-in work to both the application process, but in what would be a part of the training and sort of gearing the training specific to different sites. And then following that training opportunity, and I'll speak more to this in a bit, we'll be offering an RFP that will go live as of November later this year. And so sites that have received this training would be eligible, and we would encourage you to apply for the subaward grant of $250,000 to plan for and establish a restorative justice program. And so part of this application for the training would be indicating one, an interest in that, and also just how that subaward funding would go to support the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Alana. So a little bit more specifics about the 3-day training. It's an exciting opportunity to expose people to restorative justice philosophy and think through how it works in practice in the criminal legal system. So day 1 will be primarily focused on experiential learning. Attendees will sit in circle and participate in other exercises that embody the values of restorative justice, because we believe that to really understand RJ, you have to experience it. Day 2 will explore the principles of restorative justice and connect those principles back to our day 1 experiences. And on day 3, we'll brainstorm with the group and envision what a restorative justice practice looks like for your particular agency. And we know that each site will want a tailored RJ program, so we'll begin to explore what that looks like. So who should apply for this opportunity? We're looking for criminal justice agencies who are currently working with adult populations and are really excited about restorative justice and are interested in developing restorative justice programs for their participants. We encourage criminal justice agencies who are in partnership with community-based organizations already to apply, as we envision community-based organizations will be leading the RJ program. It's not a requirement of the application, but those that do have connections or established partnerships should highlight that in their application. So who should attend this training? When thinking about who to send, we always require, RJ requires you to be present. You're building community with folks, so we're asking everyone to be able to attend without interruption. In addition to being present, you'll have to share stories with the other attendees to the training. We encourage sites to send individuals that together reflect the diversity of the community that the agency serves. And we want to make sure that there's a little bit of everyone from the agency at the training, right? As we, particularly on day 3, spend time brainstorming what an RJ program would look like and tailor it to the needs of the community. We want to make sure that there are decision makers, leaders, and individuals with deep understanding of the community there. So we'll travel to you, which means you'll have to provide a space that works. This means a room large enough to accommodate up to 16 attendees. Our facilitators will often be sitting in circle, so chairs, unblocked by tables, a projector or screen for the few presentations that we'll have. The trainings are slated to take place between the months of August and November of 2024. So in the application, you'll be asked to select all the months that are possible or most suitable for your attendees. And finally, food is so essential to building relationships, and especially relationships within the context of restorative justice. And so you'll also be providing food for the training. Alana.
All right. So, as we mentioned at the beginning, part of the follow-up to offering these trainings, which will be happening towards the end of this summer, into early fall. And as part of what we hope to continue is offering this continued RJ learning community. So this would be open to sites who have gone through the training really as a way to connect with one another, and kind of continue the learning of what's been happening in their work. And again, this is really going to be geared towards who this community ends up being, depending on folks who ends up participating in the trainings, how big those group sizes are, sort of the dynamics of what that group is and the work that they're doing. We expect that there will be quite a bit of variation in the size and sort of scope of the work that these different training sites are bringing to this learning community, which I think will actually be incredible to have this sort of diverse learning community space that will be starting really geared towards January of next year, moving forward. And so although it's going to be geared towards, some of that will be shaped by the group itself. So a little bit TBD. I just wanted to share an example of some of the learning communities that we've helped to facilitate in the past. And so what that can look like, it will be virtual, knowing that these sites are all over the country. So we'll be offering these virtual sessions to come together as a cohort, and they'll be facilitated likely either by someone on our teams, or oftentimes we'll bring in, this is what we've done in the past, at least bring in a speaker of some kind if there's sort of an area of interest that folks are really interested in learning more about and hearing from other experts in the field. So sometimes it may be facilitated if it really just feels like the need is to have group learning, or if the need is to hear sort of a deeper dive on a particular issue or area that that feels of interest to the group. So the topics can range. We have in the past, it's become sort of an iterative process. And so there might be new folks joining over time, and there would not exactly be an end point, but we really wanted to create a space that folks can opt into to hear from one another. And I think the benefit is that the sort of common thread for these different groups would be this training. And so it would be sort of an opportunity to continue thinking about and reflect as a group, and in hearing from sort of challenges and benefits that's happening in these different sites, to hear from one another about those differences and the strengths of them as well. So so that is a little bit of a snapshot of the hope for that virtual learning community that that we'll continue to offer starting next year after folks have gone through the training. And like I said, that will be a little bit TBD depending on sort of the interests and needs of the group. The other piece is that, again, as I had mentioned earlier, folks who have gone through this training will be invited to apply for the subaward that will be coming out as of November. So for this subaward, this can be given to either a criminal justice agency that's received our training, a community-based nonprofit organization that's partnered with a criminal justice agency that's received our training. And there will be a separate both application process and sort of similar information session about what that application will entail. So we'll do another info session specific to this sub-award grant, because it's more logistics in terms of sort of what can and can't be used for that funding, and just questions about what that application process will entail. So we just wanted to mention so that sites are aware that this opportunity exists, and sort of timeline wise when that will become available, and that we'll be doing a separate information session in the coming months as the RFP timeline gets closer to November, so that there's more detail on exactly what that application process will look like.
So I know the who can apply for that for the training can get a little wonky, and then thinking about the funding. So just wanted to take folks through some examples. I am a sheriff's office, and I know a community-based organization interested in doing restorative justice work, right? This is what we're thinking, who we're thinking about to apply. A criminal justice organization would receive the restorative justice training, and then in partnership with the community-based organization, either the community-based organization or the criminal justice agency can lead the application for funding to develop the restorative justice program. So in this example, where there's a district attorney's office that wants to facilitate a restorative justice program, we are currently only working with community-based organizations to implement the restorative justice programming. We know folks do it other ways, but right now this is where our focus is beginning. And so here we would train the district attorney's office and support them in finding a community-based partner that can implement the RJ programming. And our last example is if you are a community-based organization listening in today and you want to offer RJ programming in partnership with system actors, the training is not right for you, but we encourage you to share this opportunity with your local stakeholders. And we want to support your helping to build buy-in, right? So we're hoping that the training, by offering education to system actors, they'll be more open to partnering so that together you can, in fact, implement a restorative justice program. So if you're wondering if this opportunity is for you, is your agency interested in learning more about restorative justice? Are you all curious about how it can be implemented in your community, in the criminal legal landscape? And do you have the people motivated to make this happen? If that's the case, we want your application. The application is due mid-May, which I know doesn't feel like a very long turnaround time, but it's not a long application. There are about 6 short answer questions that focus on your agency's experience with RJ, your hopes for what it will do in your community and for your participants. And if you are interested in the future funding opportunity, we would just like a preview of what that would look like. Between the application close and when we notify folks, we'll also be reaching out to applicants to schedule conversations. We know that visions can be really nuanced, and so we're hoping to talk with whoever submitted the application to talk through what they're hoping for and see if this is a good fit. So we'd like to open the floor to questions if folks have any. I guess. Oh, great.
One quick, I can put the link specifically to this page on our website in the chat, but there is specifically a landing page just for this training and application. And as Quayla just mentioned, the deadline for that application is May 17th. So there is about a month to do that application. And again, if you have questions about what that looks like or anything around sort of eligibility or or you have sort of a hope of an identified partner, but that hasn't happened yet, any of those kinds of questions, feel free. You can always reach out in the next few weeks prior to the application deadline. And I think anyone from either of our teams are happy to support talking through these questions. One of the questions that came in, I'm happy to talk about that first one, because this is geared more towards the sub-award, which is, again, we'll be having a separate info session later, but just sort of generally, depending on who gets the funding, if it's a criminal justice agency, can they sub-award funds to a partnered community-based org? So again, the hope really is that there is an identified partnership from the beginning. So whoever ends up receiving the sub-award wouldn't move the sub-award, but that identified sort of host site to receive the sub-award would need to be identified and agreed upon between that partnership for the application itself. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's sort of a yes and. The funding can go towards either a criminal justice agency or a community-based org. That's up to that partnership to decide who would actually receive the sub-award, but we wouldn't be able to issue the sub-award and then that gets sort of redistributed later, if that makes sense.
And I just want to add, we also know that some restorative justice practitioners may not be part of an organization. And so we also envision that if the criminal justice agency receives the award, they can then disperse the funds to individual practitioners that they may want to lead this work. So the next question here about adult populations, we consider adult 18 plus. We know that's different based on jurisdictions, but yes, we would be open to working with the juvenile facility that maybe wants to focus their RJ responses on that 18 plus, and then hopefully expand out for younger folks in the future. Can several criminal justice agencies partner and send one application and all be part of the training? That is a great question, and that's something we had thought of. I think we would absolutely be open to that. Especially we have had conversations with some smaller jurisdictions that are interested in sending multiple agencies. And so I think in your application, maybe just being clear about if it's visions for all one community, and all these criminal justice agencies are coming from one community, or if there's plans for future funding, applying for the future funding opportunity, would that go just to one agency? But that's a great question. Thank you so much.
I think Quilla kind of spoke to the juvenile justice programming earlier, but feel free to elaborate on that one. But there was another follow-up question around can multiple community-based orgs split funding in a situation where there's a statewide model and one criminal justice org? I think, again, this one is geared more towards what the logistics will look like for the sub-award, but I think that goes sort of to the same response earlier, in that the sub-award itself would go towards one host agency or organization, whether that's a criminal justice agency or a community-based organization. But certainly how that gets, sort of what those funds would be going towards, whether that's going towards different community-based organizations, I think that part of it is certainly what we'd expect to be seeing, or some variation of what that sub-award would look like. And so that would be, you could sort of break that down in the proposed budget in that application for the sub-award. So again, the actual sub-award would go to one site, but how it gets distributed and used, there is some flexibility in that, that you could specify in your application for the grant.
Tony, I'm not understanding oh God, Tony, would you be open to talking about your question? If we can give you that option. Alana can, oh God.
One second, I'm gonna try and figure out how to unmute. Okay, there we go. Tony, you should be able to speak out loud now.
Okay, thank you. How are you? How are you doing, first of all? And thank you for the webinar. I really appreciate it. So I'm a new board member, and I want to try to help them understand, the opportunity, and but oftentimes board members have the attention of a gnat. So it's it's really breaking it down, understanding that they are very busy. But the organization is based out of Boston, and and although the black and brown male population only is about 7%, yet 27% of black and brown men are incarcerated. So an RJ program in Boston is absolutely a very necessary um um y- component. And I'm just and I understand as a master's student the importance of this, but if you were talking to my board and you were a new board member, what are some of the most salient points you would make to help them come on board quickly with the opportunity, and and also moving quickly to make application by mid-May? And I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. So this specific opportunity, the training aspect of it is open for criminal justice agencies. So as a community-based organization, we would encourage you to find a criminal justice agency to partner with, to apply for the initial training. But I believe that the National Center on Restorative Justice likely has a lot of resources that can help you do that restorative justice pitch to your fellow board members and the CBO. Alana, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think this kind of touches on another important piece, which is that, and you mentioned this in one of the slides of the examples, Koila, but I think it's just important to sort of reiterate this could also be applicable for CBOs that are doing sort of related work that the restorative justice programs would be supporting, or working in some way tangentially with existing work that's happening. And so I would say, depending on sort of like what the mission and scope of the community-based organization that you're a board member for, I think to the extent that you're able to kind of connect it to what that mission is and the ways that restorative justice programs, if it doesn't exist already, would be able to further expand or deepen the work that's happening in a way that feels aligned with the work that's going on already. But yeah, I think happy to follow up if there's sort of specific materials that you feel like would be helpful to gear it towards, whether that's staff or whoever that may be to talk to. But as Quayla said, we also, in this application for the training, it would also need to be a partnership with a criminal justice agency or particular stakeholders, system actors. So I think identifying those relationships of who, not only like getting to the point of kind of making the pitch for the value of these programs in the existing organization, but then also like who those community partners would be or need to be at sort of the system level to make that possible. So both of those pieces, I think, are important. And if there's questions or resources that we could help with, I'll put our emails in the chat as well.
Thank you very much. Very helpful.
To the next question, any preference on programs that prioritize misdemeanors and felonies? So we know that there are lots of programs that are working both like only on misdemeanors, only on felonies, and doing a mixture of both. We're leaving that up to the criminal justice agencies and their partners to determine where best the restorative justice program would be positioned. We really want this to be deeply community-led and flexible for what the needs are. And then Aaron, can you provide further clarity around who should come to the training? Is it appropriate to have community partners if they're identified as being a part of next steps? Absolutely. So we're hoping that 16 is enough. It's not a huge number, but absolutely, if there are community partners, whether it's part of the CBO or not, that are invested, that need to be there for part of next steps. And like I said, day 3 of the training is really focused on beginning to open up the brainstorming about what an RJ program would look like. And so if it's appropriate to have them there, we want them there. Oh, Kelly, I didn't mean to skip your question. Can it be a restorative justice program that is aimed at juveniles? For this first opportunity, we're focusing only on restorative justice programs that will be working with adult population, so 18 years and older. But we're hoping that another opportunity comes down the pipeline for us to be working with juveniles.
Any other questions? I also put my email in the chat and happy to be a thought partner for folks in these next few weeks as they are, if other questions come up, or in particular, I think we've had a lot of questions around sort of exactly what would sort of meet the eligibility for that partnership, whether that's identifying criminal justice agencies or particular stakeholders. That term is intentionally sort of left as broadly as it is because we recognize that that might look different depending on where you live in that jurisdiction and who would make the most sense to partner for the type of work you'd want to be doing, and vice versa for community partners. As Quayla mentioned earlier, sometimes that might be an already established CBO, but oftentimes in a lot of states that also could be particular practitioners or sort of collaborative groups of practitioners. And so both of those kind of terms are meant to be broad, hopefully allowing flexibility in your application. And also the other reason, again, that the questions for this application are short answer because we expect that there's a lot of nuance and we want to give room for that to show in the application.
Okay. There's no other burning questions at this time. As Alana said, we have our email on the webpage where more information about this can be found. We're pretty responsive, we're friendly, so please reach out so we can answer all your questions and support you to get an application in.
And I just put the direct link in the chat, but I'm realizing now, since we are recording this, if folks are watching this after and can't see the chat, you can go either to our website directly, which is just www.ncorj.org. And specifically for information on this, it's ncorj.org/program implementation. And that page as of now is really targeting this training opportunity in the application. So the link to the application and information about it is there. And my email, which if you can't see the chat, is aojibway@vermontlaw.edu. And we're happy to answer questions in these coming weeks through the application process if anything comes up. And we are excited to hear from you in the next couple weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining.